Hello, welcome back to Living the Questions. This is our second guest episode, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. I have the absolute honor and delight. This is the word of connected to the person that I'm talking to. She embodies this word so beautifully and lives it out with such reverence and invites all humans into living into that word if they are called to, however they are called to. So I welcome my beautiful, beautiful, dear, dear friend, Nisha Mody. If you have not met Nisha yet, I am so excited for you to get to meet her in this episode. And if you have, I hope this episode serves as a deepening into your relationship, your experience with Nisha. She is a profound human, full of heart, really deeply caring presence in this world. Her heart for humanity and her heart for all beings and this earth is just tremendous and felt. Whenever I'm with her, the presence that I feel of just what she embodies in this world and offers in this world just by her being her is profound. It's felt, it's like an energy that you just feel when you're with her. And I am also, really grateful that we get to delight in each other and dive really deeply in the important conversations of life, um, the things that feel really necessary for our attention right now and our curiosity and our perspective shifts and open-heartedness and open-mindedness and um, and calls to action as well as calls to integration. The core of her question is about wellness, is about how we define wellness, the ways that our wellness is connected to another person's wellness, the ways that we go after wellness and its impact on another person and the world. And how are those interconnected? How are they, how do they work with each other and or work against one another? And how can we really be in the tenderness of that conversation? How do we care about all beings, including ourselves, not one at the expense of the other? How do we be with the horrific things that happen in this world, that are happening in this world right now? And how do we show up for them to care collectively, to take care of ourselves, to be able to care collectively? How do we show up with integrity? How do we show up with space to hold difference, space to widen perspective? How do we show up and acknowledge things that have happened historically that are still impacting us today, and how that might impact different people differently? And how do we want to show up for that, all of that? How is our collective wellness? And what does that look like on a personal level and on a worldly scale? It's big questions that are not tackled in just one conversation, and they are very important to have that dialogue on. And so while one conversation can't cover it all, it plants the seed to continue. I really do hope that this conversation is an invitation for continuous deepening, to not only continue the conversation, but come back to this one and listen even deeper the next time and see what else comes up for you. I found that when I was editing, that was the invitation that came through for me, was just how powerful it is to have the gift of listening to any given conversation more than once. And this one in particular for me really, really, that highlighted for me because there was just so much gold there that we could have had 15 more conversations spread off into any one specific thing that I feel like Nisha was sharing at any time. And when I was editing and listening, the conversation thread that we had made sense. And also going back and getting to listen again, I got to discern so much more gold that was still left on the table that we could continue having more conversations in different paths and avenues. And to me, that's really like just such a beautiful thing to remember about the conversations we have with one another. They're never over. We always get to continue to come back to them. And especially important conversations like these, especially when we're talking about things like not having the answers, but living into them, there's always going to be the invitation of continuing to deepen, continuing the conversation. It's never over. We're invited to continue to show up for it, to live into it. And what a gift to get to do that. And so, without further ado, I am again delighted to share this beautiful episode with Nisha. I am so grateful for the generosity of her time and wisdom and heart that she gave to this conversation, to this podcast. And also, we got so excited in the end that she didn't get to share where to find her and her work. And so make sure to go down into the show notes where all of her links are provided. She also has offered something really special for this first season of the podcast. So make sure to go down and check it out and explore the beauty of the work that she brings into this world. And truly, just the beauty of her being her is the work that she does and the gift that she brings. And it is a powerful, potent, and beautiful one. We are so lucky. And so I am so grateful for all the beauty and wisdom and medicine that is her. So again, without further ado, I could talk about her in a beaming way always, and for hours. So I will cut myself off. Here is Nisha Mody. Welcome to Living the Questions. I have the absolute honor today of sitting and chatting with Nisha, my dear, 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 dear friend. I'm so excited to be with you today. And to introduce yourself, instead of telling us what you do for a living, can you tell me or tell us all rather, what makes your whole soul come alive? What in life makes you or invites you to be more of you?
Oh my God. I love this question and I love you, Courtney.
I love
Hello,
you.
everyone. My name is Nisha Mody. So excited to be here. Oh God, what makes my soul come alive? Like I got tingles like in my belly when you asked that. And really what makes me come alive and be me is feeling the connection with other people.
Mm.
Um, really coming to a place of understanding. Um, and Also, what makes me come alive is writing and journaling. That has been a huge part of my process, for my own healing journey, as well as my creative journey. And so, I mean, I even noticed myself like light up when I said creative journey.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a creativity that comes along with writing as well as connecting with people, whether that's like in the coaching I do, or whether that's just like meeting someone for brunch, which is my favorite meal. Whether that's even connecting with my little kitties, any type of life that I can connect with, whether that's a plant or an animal. And on a meta level, really getting to reminding myself of what my life force, my earthly being is here to do, that just brings me life.
I love seeing life in you. It's the sweetest thing. One of the sweetest things that I've learned about Nisha over time is you being connected to the word delight. And so that comes back up too when I think about you coming to life. It's seeing you delighted is a joy. It brings me life seeing you delighted in this world.
Oh my God, I love that. And I loved how when I was getting to know you more, that came about. Like it was just such a beautiful realization for myself for um how I like it's like I feel like my delight is part of the ecosystem, you know, and I think we all have something in us that's part of the ecosystem and discovering and well, I should say remembering that because I think I always knew it, you know, remembering that was delightful.
Yeah, I feel like when I watched you, for context, Nisha and I were a part of a really, really beautiful year-long mentorship, relational leadership mentorship. It was incredible. Incredible. I want to find a better word for that. It was amazing. It was just life-giving, and awakening. And part of that, we really discovered much about ourselves and relating to ourselves and relating to one another. And so seeing, and from my perspective, Nisha, learning, watching you learn that your word was delight, watching that come out of you, watching that realization, that remembrance, as you were putting it, was so beautiful because also I feel like I watched life come into you as you embraced that word and brought it forward to the group, and everyone was like, totally, this is of course what you have. We were a part of that remembrance with you, which was such a gift. So thank you for being present for that and for being so seen and for bringing it to the world, for remembering that and bringing it to the ecosystem that we are all a part of. It's such a gift.
Yeah, and I mean, I really appreciated the reciprocity that was there, just people receiving it so much, just reminded me of the value of it, you know, that it's not just for me. It's like, yeah, it's all around.
Mm. Mm. I just love you so.
I love you too. This is just going to be a big love fest,
It
everybody.
is. It always is.
It always is.
Uh, the other question I have is, what is the question you're currently living into right now? I have one that you sent me, which I can share, or also what is present for you today.
Yeah, it was funny. I was like, what did I write? I'll be quite honest. I do have something in my mind, but I also do want to hear what the question
Yeah.
was. I
All
forgot
right.
it.
I'll jog your memory. It was, how is my wellness at the expense of others being unwell?
Okay. Yes, let's do that. Because it's very connected to what I was thinking, but it is something that just in the last couple of weeks I've come to, I don't want to say an answer, but a type of resolve. But I think that question is like a really important one that I would love to. I mean, I'm continuing to live into it. There's not like, I'm not like, oh, I got to figure it out. So, yeah.
Well, share more. I would love to hear more if you're up for it.
Yeah. So, how is my wellness at the expense of other? There's a really great book I love by Fariha Roshan called "Who is Wellness For?" It's like a she's a poet and a writer, and she wrote this book. It's part memoir and part like investigative journalism about like wellness, different ways that wellness has been co-opted by the West, from you know, from Eastern ways of knowing and being, and about how like who gets to be well in the political structures that we're in, like when people are being genocided, but I can be here and having this delightful conversation with you, you know, which is going to contribute to my wellness. And um I didn't choose this life to be born into, consciously at least. And like why do I get to have these opportunities but other people who have done nothing wrong individually and have so much love in their lives, like don't get to enjoy it in a similar way. And it's really been plaguing me quite a bit um, since, you know, October 7th last year, since the Gaza genocide began. And it's always been something on my mind, right? Like as someone who really cares about the world and the inequities and social justice, I'm putting that in quotes because there's a lot of ways that I've evolved in terms of what social justice means for me and what it can mean, and also maybe where there's limitations.
Yeah.
Um, But like, why can't we all just have the things that we want to thrive and live and be happy in this world? And also, I've also very passionate about wellness, and something that years ago I was like, how are these two things connected? Because one feels very selfish and one feels unselfish. And even those words, selfish, unselfish, I think are interesting because kind of as I was saying before with the delight is like, I really think about, um, actually, something one of my clients said to me once that I really loved is like how if you take like a crystal that has like a lot of different facets, like
Mm.
there might be a dull facet, but you're not going to tell it that it needs to shine. And you're not going to tell the shiny ones that it needs to dull. Like it is what it is. It's broken off for whatever reason. And that is what it's living into. And how can we be the life force we are? And how is that actually good for the world? And that's kind of where I've come to with this question, which is yes, it's true. I have so many privileges on so many levels and that other people don't have. And what is my life force, my earthly being asking me, who is it asking me to be in the context of everything that's happening? Okay, I have a home. I have a heating pad on right now behind my back. Like I have my sweet cat circling around me, just, wanting love.
Mm.
In the safety of my home where I'm not worried about my home being bombed or anything right now. Um, so all of this to say, like, I think, what I'm living into is how is my wellness actually supportive for the collective? What do I have to bring that can sustain others so that they can relate and connect to the issues that are exist in the world, the inequities that exist in the world? Um, I've felt for like the last year, like over a year, that what's the point of my work? Like, is it really making an impact if all these other people are hurting?
Mhm.
And I think that was the hardest thing, and that's how I came to this question.
Yeah. Whew, my goodness.
Just a few words.
Dive in. Even as I was reading the question too, I was like, let's go. Let's dive fully in.
Absolutely.
I thank you for saying this out loud. Thank you for bringing this to the forefront. You, I know you are not alone in this question, in living into this question. I think it is a massive question that I would argue we are all being asked right now.
Agreed.
And um, I would invite, I'm going to remove argue. I'll invite, I'll invite that we're all being asked. And I think it is a tricky one, right? Like when we care deeply about life, when we care deeply about beings, about one another, um, we're required, to ask that question. I know for me personally, I have a heart that really struggles with, um, like when seeing others hurting, when seeing others' lives be um, disregarded completely and dehumanized, in danger, taken away. Uh, all of that feels like there's nothing more important right now. Like that's the focus. And I've also learned the detriment of letting that be the only focus and then in that disregarding um my own life force and self, because then if that's not being taken care of also, what am I, how am I standing for the fact that I do care about human life?
Mhm.
And that part's really hard, right? Where it's like, how do I care about self? How do I take good care of me and make sure that I am well so that I can be part of the contributing to the collective, so that I can be a part of the wellness of us all. And my wellness is a part of us all being well. And that part is hard to live into. That question, um, and dance with that is very, very difficult. How have you been finding just like grappling with that yourself?
Yeah, it has been really hard, and There's a few things that come to my mind immediately, and one is there are some people who have sacrificed themselves for causes, people who have self-immolated,
Yeah.
who have gone to Gaza, people who just live there. And I mean, Congo, like name any place where
Yep.
genocide is happening or inequity prisons, the US carceral system. Like there's so much pain and
Yeah.
punishment and violence around us at all times, really. You know, weeks ago, my neighbor reported a RV in front on our street to the city of LA, and I'm like, they
Why?
didn't do
Yeah.
like, yeah, why? Like,
Mhm.
talk to them, or if they didn't do anything, then there's nothing to report. Just like to me, that's violent too. It's
Mhm.
like you're moving someone's home, when there's no issue. So just all these like carceral punitive things that lead to violence and vice versa.
Yeah.
And just continue that cycle.
Mm.
Um, it really makes me think about like, where do I also do that in my life? Who am I
Mhm.
doing that with? And,
Mhm.
I think this is so connected to the relational leadership work we did, where how is that happening with my mom? You know,
Mhm.
um, how is all of the questions that I'm asking about the world and the inequities that are there a way for me to feel good about myself?
Mm. Ooh.
Sounds like one of the rude questions that James Lee asked.
Yeah, for sure. They'll be so proud.
More of those rude questions are coming out of me, and I'm like, I kind of like it. I was like,
I
I
love
love it.
it.
I mean, really though, like, how is this question I'm living into actually about my goodness? No.
Mm.
And how is it also infiltrated by other voices? And not just other voices, but like the stories I make them out to be. Because I realized for me, one of the voices I had in my head was a really good friend who has really woken me up to a lot of political things and like the things am making up that she thinks about me because I'm not doing X, Y, or Z.
Oh, yeah.
She's never said this to
Right.
me, or anything, but because she's had such a positive influence and like woken me up and I've learned so much, there's that pressure I put on myself that I'm like, well, that's what's good and that's what I need to do to be good. It's like, well, no, what she's doing is what she's doing and what she's living into and her own expression, which is like so aligned. Like that's one thing I feel like she's so aligned. What does that look like for me? You know? So I feel like that's a lot of where I've gotten to. What are the shoulds that are actually stopping me from stepping into my power? And when I say stepping into my power, I say power, I think power with. How is that power actually going to lift others up? Not even necessarily in their wellness, but in their I don't want to say truth because I feel like that's like so overused, but in their like congruence,
Yeah.
right? In their alignment. Like maybe someone doesn't like what I'm doing and I don't have to give a crap
Mm.
because I know what my expression is. And this doesn't mean that if someone has feedback for me or wants to call me in or like have me look at a different perspective, I'm not willing. I think I'm very willing,
Mm.
but I also get to choose not how I receive that, but when I receive it, how I get to respond and how I get to take aligned action, I can't as one person do everything. I can't. Nobody can.
Yeah.
Please, anyone listening, please don't do everything. But that's what I was asking of myself. That's what I have been asking of myself. And that's what so many people I know are asking of themselves. And it really just leads to overwhelm and shutdown. And I think that's actually a disservice to the collective. I think it actually, a lot of this guilt, a lot of this, like, oh, what am I even doing? Like, this is pointless. It's hopeless.
Mm.
Um, like, I don't know, like harmful. I think disservice is like the best word I could think of. It's like, that's not you living in your, like to what your life is, what life is asking you to be, to who life is asking you to be.
Yeah.
And, I think that when we continually ask ourselves, who is life asking me to be?
Mm.
Who is life asking me to be? I think that's a question that responds to the question that I'm living into.
Mm. Powerful. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I also hear in here the question of how do I take care of myself as I'm living into this question,
Ooh.
it's like it's meta in that way where you're like, the wellness is within the question of wellness, of greater wellness.
Yeah, yeah. And how do I take care of myself? And also, okay, how do I take care of myself in a way that is in service to that life? Because
Mhm.
I remember I heard a podcast once with Andrea Renee Johnson, who I know you're familiar with.
Mhm.
And one thing that she mentioned that I really appreciated was she was talking about the transatlantic slave trade and
Mm.
how there were some people who, as on their journey from Africa to wherever they were going to be enslaved, jumped off the boat. And there are other people who stayed the whole way.
Mm.
And who are we to say who is right and what's wrong? Someone maybe martyred themselves in a way where that was like what they felt that they needed to do. That's how they felt they were taking care of themselves. And maybe their family and maybe their lineage, maybe they're like, if I live, I don't want to bring other people into this world where this happens. So I'm going to stop it. Like, and I'm not here advocating for self-harm or anything, but I am saying that um who am I to say that that was wrong?
Yeah.
You know, um or right or whatever, I think that's what they did. And I think in that, which what Andrea Renee was referencing was talking about like liberatory responsibility
Mm.
and how that looked different for people who made it the whole way and other people who didn't,
Yeah.
I mean, didn't intentionally. And so it's like, how am I taking care of myself so that I can be the life force that I'm here to be?
Mhm.
And um, yeah, yeah, I'll just stop there.
Yeah. Well, because these are really big things. Like even in this moment, my curiosity is as you even talk about this or reflect back on it or live into it, continuing to live into this question, like where are you at right now? Like how are you taking good care of yourself in this moment, even as you're talking about it and reflecting?
Sure, yeah. One thing I've been doing a lot, and I'm really excited, we're recording this right before the 2024 December holidays, is I've been journaling a lot. I've been doing a
Mm.
lot of writing. And as I mentioned earlier, that is a practice that really makes me come alive. And that's something that I've been doing quite a bit. I mean, sometimes twice a day. Um, and like in the morning and the evening, and also getting into my body and really
Yeah.
noticing what the different signals of my body are telling me, not from a place of judgment as much as I can. I mean, I do judge myself sometimes. I am human. But from a place of curiosity, like what's happening? What is this story that's coming up in my body? How is it um translating to my head?
Mm.
What actions is it leading me to take? Those are two big things that I'm doing. And I think both of those actually have to do with, and it sounds so cliche, but being in the present.
Mm.
And I think this realization I've been having about like, how can I step into my power? And, I'll say it more explicitly. One thing I've realized, like, I'm stepping into my power by saying, like, I'm a healer, which has been something I've been very averse to. I mean, did like an Instagram live a few years ago that was like, I'm not a healer,
Mhm.
total opposite. Like, I don't think we should. I mean, it was also almost a judgment about people who do call themselves healers. And now I'm like literally saying the opposite, even though what I said before I still believe. But now I realize, like, by not owning that, I was actually listening to other people's voices by
Mm.
being like, oh, but watch out because you don't want to say you're too much if you don't do this. Like there's like all these like shoulds that are
Yeah.
coming in the way where I'm like, I'm not saying that I'm going to touch you and you're going to be like healed and there's some flowers blooming everywhere. But if you want to receive what I have, like, let's do this and let's see where this healing energy goes because I am confident and I know that I have something to offer. And I would love to see what would happen if you're willing to receive it. And there's no guarantee about what that is. But so many of my clients, and not even clients, friends, have told me what kind of grounding energy I have, the delight, the
Yeah.
ways I think that people really enjoy. And I'm like, that's my gift. And I
Mhm.
also want to help other people know that they also have gifts. This is not just like Nisha rising above all. It is me in connection with others so that it's a co-creative process.
Yeah.
So I feel like I kind of got off track, but yeah, it's like the writing is a huge part. The getting into my body, the asking myself like what's the story? I mean, it's every like level, like it's like the emotional, the cognitive, the somatic, um really tuning into what my wisdom is, my inner wisdom. Those are the practices. And on a very, and being in the present is helping me be like, okay, what's happening now? And like I said, I really much like, I could do it from a place of non-judgment. And it's really interesting. Something that happened last week that I was really surprised about because I've been so averse to it. Um, I actually started ending my showers. I love a good hot shower with a cold shower. And
Ooh.
I know that that's like, I've always heard that's so good for the nervous system, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm always like, oh, I do not want
Same.
to be the cold. Yeah, I'm like, no.
Tell me
But
how
there
you've
was
done this.
something that happened, and I can't even really put it into words where I'm like, I'm stepping into this power. I am a healer.
Mm,
Like, I think I'm like, what is going to help me ground? Are the things, just kind of like what you just asked, that
mm,
will allow me to continue to exude that energy for myself and others. And that has made that has reduced the resistance. And I just literally just turned the thing down and received it on my back, received it on the front of my body. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I've been doing it almost every day. And it's actually not as shocking as
mm.
I thought it would be. Like, and I've done it before and it felt shocking, but I think um the why am I doing this has reduced the resistance and almost made me I'm actually like enjoy it.
Yeah.
Also I get to get out of the shower and put a nice warm towel around me. So that does
Makes
help.
all the difference.
Um just being real here. So and that has everything to do with being in the present, understanding like, okay, what does my life force want me to do? Like, I love to be grounded. Like, you know what? I've heard that this really helps. Like, I'm gonna try it, and I like just really, really enjoyed it. And the other day was interesting. I know Monday I didn't journal at all, and Tuesday morning I woke up and I was like, oh, I just feel like this energy buzzing in my body that needed to be released in a journal. Like, it's amazing how much that grounds me. And I know when I do that, then I'm also of course, being in service to others, but from a place where I'm taking care of myself,
Mm,
right? Like
mhm.
it's from a place of my own groundedness.
Yeah.
I'm not extracting from myself in order to give. And I think that's where the like reciprocity really activates. And it's also like to me, it's like regenerative and renewable.
Yeah. This is, I mean, there's so many things. Every share that you have, I'm like, I want to go in 50 directions with it. Because again, this is what happens in our conversation.
Absolutely.
Um, with this, so many things. The thing that's floating to the top is I love the way that you reframed, for me at least,
Mhm.
the word healer, because the way that I just heard it due to the words you put around it
Mhm.
was you use the word touch. You were like, I'm not gonna, touch you and then flowers bloom or something along these lines. However, what I did hear was um, being a healer does mean that you touch someone. And in that
Mm.
way, I didn't think of it with that word of like someone is touched by the work that you do.
Yeah.
You you leave fingerprints on someone from the work that you do.
Oh my
And I feel like I just like got full chills like thinking about it that way because I'm like, you do, first of all, knowing you, knowing your work, just knowing you as a person, you just inherently bring that. So in that you are, like you leave me touched every time, and I want
God.
to like, I love the intentionality of language in that way of how can we hear that differently? How can we get to the root of what healer has always meant? What is
Mhm.
the historic nature of this word?
Ooh, yeah.
And how, do I connect with that? And if so, bring that back. And that's where like the nuance that I feel like you were talking about comes in, where it's like, how has this been misinterpreted? How do I not align with that misinterpretation, or this understanding of it? And how do I define it for myself? How do I connect with what it's, the etymology of it, which you and I both nerd out about.
Yes.
And to that end, I'm thinking of that with the word wellness too, which I know
Mhm.
you were talking about, has been co-opted and taken in many a
Mhm.
direction and definitely misconstrued. What has been your journey with that word, its actual meaning, and the way that you interpret it in your life and in this question as you live into it?
Yeah. Wow, this is so great. I love what you said, first of all, to be like I don't touch you and flowers bloom, but I touch you, and you're touched. And that's the exact relationship I'm speaking of. So thank you so much for that reflection. I
Mhm.
love having these conversations because it just brings so much to me. So I appreciate you deeply.
Oh, same.
Um, yeah. So wellness. Yeah. It's another, because, healer, you're right. Like there's different roots that where it's like so beautiful and useful and meaningful. And there's
Mhm.
so much now, like with like Instagram wellness, like hashtag wellness, where it's like you just imagine someone with crystals and wearing a boho chic dress and like, doing van life. And I'm not knocking any of those things. Like I know people who do all of those things who are phenomenal and wonderful and do not bypass and are great and very aligned. And I think that there's like a stock photo image of that like
Mhm.
kind of comes in my head. And I think that's why I've been averse to it. But there is so much depth to in history to how healers have impacted the world in amazing ways.
Yeah.
And I think wellness too, I think that my relationship with that is evolving. And I think it's a very hazy term.
Mm.
Which once again has been influenced by being commodified. I mean, wellness industry, like it is an industry. And whenever something becomes commodified or an industry in that way, it's good to take pause to see what is this really? Like what safeguards do you have around checking yourself and being accountable and responsible to what this is. And I think we get to define what being well is for us.
Mhm.
We get to decide like what am I willing to sacrifice maybe
Mhm.
that might support other people's wellness, and I have to make this decision. Um like what am I willing to do, you know? And as much as I'm like, yeah, make boundaries, like, you know, um know what relationships are sucking the life out of you. Um, think about how, you're overgiving or people pleasing. I
Mhm.
mean, I think these things are very, very important, especially because so much of it is like a trauma response, and so much of it is also conditioned
Mhm.
through patriarchy, through capitalism, colonialism, all the things. And so I'm all about deconditioning. And I think that everyone's on their journey for what that looks like for them. And I think that's what being well is.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's a strict stock photo image. I
Right.
actually think it's very messy and very painful. I think being well it requires like requires discomfort because wellness requires growth and
Mhm.
growth requires discomfort. Like, I always like to give like if you haven't worked out in 3 months and you work out and you're sore, it's not a bad thing. It's because you feel pain because your muscles are trying to grow, like that
Mhm.
they're feeling that, right? So or you do heavy weights again next time and then heavier and heavier and they'll continue to be pain, but it's for growth. And like I feel like it's just like an easy metaphor for people to comprehend why it's important to have a certain level of discomfort for growth. But I also like to discern that with discomfort that you experience that's harmful or abusive.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like what you necessarily need to tolerate. And I think, in fact, I almost think that people are more ready to be with that discomfort instead of the ones that ask them to grow because that discomfort is creating new patterns. It might change relationship patterns too. It might mean that you have to lose something in the process. But I do think like discerning between those two discomforts it's definitely been discomfort was one of my words of the year for 2024. And that's
Ooh.
something what I just said too, I've been repeating to so many people. Like, is
Mhm.
it a discomfort that's asking you to grow, or is it a discomfort that is coming from like abuse or harm? Like,
Yeah.
that's not, maybe that's asking you to grow in a different way to make a different decision, to say like this discomfort's not okay. But other times it is like actually necessary,
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I don't remember what you asked, but yeah, that's where I got.
That I love it. Well, and also to me, it has led to what sounds like another question you've been living into, which is, that discernment piece and
Mhm.
what is discomfort? How can I go after leaning into it in ways that are really are really yeah, growth oriented, are expanding to my soul, or contract my soul, and but
Mhm.
also are a part of that inhale exhale of growth, and where it's harm, like capital
Mhm.
H harm,
Absolutely, yeah.
and that question, yeah, how is living into that question of discerning what is harm and what is actually just uncomfortability.
Yes. Yeah, that discernment is hard to know. And I think it gets easier when we start seeing when you ask the question, who is benefiting from my discomfort?
Mhm.
Like if you're in an abusive, I was in an abusive marriage and relationship, and that was not a harm I needed to like get used to. That was a harm that was asking me like, who's benefiting from you feeling this way? It's not you, but who's benefiting from me making the hard decision to leave the relationship? Me. you
Mhm.
know
Yeah.
and that is actually contributing to my life force.
Whew. And those are hard. I was just talking to somebody about this recently, talking about when someone is like choosing to step into like growth work, and how there's a misrepresentation of like when I start to heal in my life, when I start to be open to growth, um or just reflection and self-awareness, like I will arrive somewhere, I will get to greater
Mm.
understanding, I will feel better. And the conversation that I was having with this friend of mine, I ended up just saying out loud, I was like, I actually feel like it only gets harder, and that it isn't really arriving at this like place
Yeah.
ever really. It's just, like you get really good feedback, you get really decent information to work with, and it's not easier. It gives you illumination, it gives you new widened perspectives, it gives you, like you're spiraling up, right, to like learn lessons from a different way with wisdom.
Mhm.
And I have not found in my personal experience that it's gotten any easier to be with the same types of things, the same lessons, the same things that will ask us to be in discomfort in different ways. Um, so I'm hearing that a bit in yours, but I would be curious what your thoughts are on your own growth journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree that I agree with that, especially thinking about how when we start opening up layers,
Mm.
it also starts revealing layers underneath those layers,
Mhm.
and which leads to more of that discomfort and pain and confusion. I think confusion is like a really big type of pain or discomfort that we don't talk about enough. And like that is like a discomfort, like being confused is uncomfortable. And I think that the more we dig, the more we find,
Mhm.
and once we start facing those, like really confronting these challenges instead of avoiding them or letting them take over and gobble us up, um, I like literally like, you know, like imagine like a big like roadblock, like something
Mhm.
like a big stone in front of you. Either I'm turning away, I'm letting it like cower over me,
Mhm.
bully me, or I'm confronting it, like even lovingly confronting it, befriending it. And what happens when that occurs? It might soften, it
Mhm.
might dissipate, it might turn into a flower, but there might be another boulder or thing behind that, right?
Right.
Um, and while it does get harder, I do think that we start growing our capacity
Yeah.
to deal with the hard. And I think that to me is what growth is, like growing your capacity, sustaining yourselves. Because if we don't do that, everything's just status quo,
Yeah.
you know? And I think it's like Howard Zen. I don't know if he wrote a book or is there something where he's like, there's nothing neutral on a moving train. You know, it's like status quo, the train's going, you know? So, um, and not like you're supposed to run and constantly keep up, but like, we can't just be like, I mean, we can if you can do whatever you want. But I do actually think that being with the status quo is um like stifling growth. It stifles growth and it stifles your body. It stifles your mind. I mean, how many times have we heard like people who um have health issues and chronic health issues because of stress that they have not been facing.
Yeah.
You can do that, but it's going to impact your body because everything lives in your body, and this is I've been saying like and that your body is the earth, and it's like that is the first part of the earth that I think we need to get to know. I mean, sure, get to know the trees and everything, right? But like, yeah, it's like this is my earthly boundary, the one I was given.
Yeah.
And so what's my relationship with that? And how is me avoiding this conversation with this person or not looking into this pattern that I have or whatever actually like one, hurting my life force, and two, like which when you hurt your life force, you hurt the vessel that holds it.
Yeah. Woof.
Yeah.
Quotes
I
on
need to, I
quotes.
need to, yeah, I need to get the transcript for this. I'm like, yeah, that sounded good.
That's so awesome. Yeah. So real. I mean, right, we are nature. I remember there was someone who I don't have the quote or the name, but I'll try to find it to put in our show notes here. Where they had just said, it's not that I'm going into nature, you are it. So when you
Yeah.
go into the forest, you're just a part of it as well. And I loved what you said about like a coming home to that nature, to our vessel,
Mhm.
and how to take good care of that to be able to live the life force out of it that we're here to do.
Yeah.
Which circles back to this wellness piece. How are we taking good care of
Mhm.
this vessel? How are we regarding it in the ways that we are, you know, seeing bodies disregarded outside of all of us? Are we doing that first and foremost with ourselves? And how can what we decide to do with this vessel, how can that impact the way we show up with generous, you know, uh, space to do so, generous offering to do so? How can we offer that to others to regard their bodies as well? Like
Mhm.
that feels like a powerful many a question to sit with, many a layer.
Oh yeah. I think that is the journey, right? That
Yeah.
is really the journey about like remembering what who life is asking you to be is what life is. You
Yeah.
know, like what's stopping me? Who's stopping me? And what how have I internalized the voices that are stopping me? Maybe no one's actually saying anything to me, but my some voice in my head is like telling me this, or it's making me doubt myself. So a lot of it is like self-trust too, and I think that's really hard to cultivate and necessary for us to know what that power within us is. um yeah, I was thinking, I was at an event recently where I said like I was calling in the power and presence and the presence and power.
Mm.
And it felt really right with at least where I'm at right now, because there's so much power in noticing and feeling into ourselves and asking ourselves who life is asking us to be.
Mm.
And power itself is something that comes from that present way of knowing. And I think it's one of the hardest things to do. And like I said, it's like everyone's like, "Oh, be present, be present." And there's a reason everyone's saying it. There's something there, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not just it's not just a cliche because it's like a thing to bypass or be like, "Oh, just go away, just be present."
Mhm.
There it's power. It has so much power.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many ways to get there, and there's not one way, but I did not think that like what I've come to realize very recently would help me get into the present moment.
Mm.
So you never know. Maybe it's like you're intentionally being like, okay, I'm going to be present. I'm going to meditate. Like, fine, do that. That's fine. But maybe that's actually not the
Mm.
route that is going to sustain that for you. So
Yeah.
that's why I really think about like, what are the voices? Who's stopping me? What is the power that I have? Like, what are the gifts that I bring to this world and the energy I bring, right? Like,
Mm.
you and I both, I think, are very curious people.
Mhm.
We ask questions, we want to know things, we love to like hug each other and just love on each other. But we both have very different energies in so many
Mhm.
ways, right?
Yeah.
And so we both have a lot of the same gifts.
Mm.
And how we bring those gifts,
Mm.
I think that's the magic, and that's why I think that to me is the power, the
Yeah.
energy of how we bring our gifts into the world.
Mm.
Um, and the should stop us from believing that who we are is okay and how we bring our energy in is okay. And, I was, I love my mother dearly, but I was really raised to constantly doubt myself and think that I shouldn't be that person. And
Mm.
I have fought my whole life to be her. And as hard as it is, like you said, it gets harder. It's also so liberating.
Yeah.
It's as liberating as it is challenging. And I'd rather have that than anything.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Celebrating that massively. And you, all of you. I'm celebrating just the the absolute luckiness that I feel knowing all of you and getting to be here as you bring that forward, as difficult as as that journey has been and unfolds to be sometimes. And I love what you said here, where it's like, you're right. I totally agree with you, where I am, yeah, it is difficult, right? It continues to be a hard journey to choose to grow forward, or to remain curious, to remain open, I'll say, because it's not always maybe expansion. Um, but it is nonetheless being open to that. And it is worth it. It may not always feel like it in the moment when it's especially difficult. And uh, yeah, that it frees us. You're so right. It really does. It allows us to actually get the gunk out of the way. And there's so much internally that I feel like we realize, where it's really like the core of being a human, the core of who we are is quite simple, and it's also not easy necessarily to live out, right? So like those are two
Yeah.
two separate words.
It's a paradox, right? But at the
Yeah.
same time, it makes sense. Like it's a paradox. I guess that's what a paradox is. Like it's two things that coexist that seem opposite, but are so true at the
Yeah.
same time. It is simple and it's hard as hell.
Yeah. Truly.
um, and I think what makes it really hard is how we get in our own way.
Hmm.
And I'm always gonna bring into like there are systems that get in our way too.
Yep.
And I don't want to dismiss that at all. That's like, it's not like I'm not gonna tell someone who, is suffering greatly that it's like you're just getting in your own way. That's like so problematic.
Really.
I really do see so many people I know that have the capability and the safety that they we just pay attention to where we're constricted and we forget like where we can feel safe and how that there's so much power there. And that's exactly I think why we need to access that safety, because there are people who have these systemic roadblocks that they that they're not getting in their own way, that something's literally in their way. So how can you access safety so that you can like be the person that we all need? And I think
Yeah.
that's actually like perfectly rounds out to where I was starting with the question itself.
Yeah, it really does. I feel like you've brought up such powerful curiosities and questions for um, anyone who is inspired to live into, to like ask themselves is like even just something of what you just said, like distilling that down to, is this an a roadblock in front of me that is being put in front of me that I do not have any access to change? Like it is being purposefully put in front of me by fill in the blank here.
Mhm.
And or is this an internal block that I am not realize that I can bring awareness to and can be kind to and compassionate to and learn about over time and slowly soften and relate differently to, so that I can move forward because I'm like giving greater perspective to it. I feel like there's such a curious question, even just within that last sentence that you said, let alone everything else that you've just shared. There's like a million questions and curiosities I hope that we can all take away from this. But I feel like, wow, like what a powerful one to ask, which again is discernment of, is harm being caused towards me that is cutting me off from the ability to,
Mhm.
and not or. And another question is it internalized hurt that is stopping me? And can I tell the difference? And how do I want to move from there? Like, what a powerful question.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think it makes you get honest with yourself
Yeah.
and see how, when I started making boundaries with my mom, which is probably one of the first things I feel like I did
Mm-hmm.
really toward my wellness. And I don't even know if I did it well, but I started. I started,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, Something that someone told me was that it's better to feel guilty than resentful, because I was not taking a stand because I felt bad.
Yeah.
But it's not because I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I could. I just didn't want to feel guilty.
Yeah.
And when she said that, I realized, oh, I have access, because it was making me resentful, right?
Mm.
Like, so I feel bad, but it's poisoning my relationship with her, you know? So when I realized I actually did have that choice, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be okay with feeling guilty, because I really would rather feel that than like throw our relationship out the window, because I feel like that's very possibly where it could have led. And some people have done that and have had to cut off, and I completely understand and compassionate towards that. And I was in a situation where I realized, okay, this is a choice I have. And at that point, I don't think I even thought about what discernment even looked like.
Sure.
But my friend gave me that discernment.
Mm.
Like, oh, you feel bad, but it's making you feel resentful. And that, like, I have a choice about which one I want to feel. And that was like, I just realized it now.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like that might be one of my biggest, most conscious introductions about how discernment um could allow me to be the life force that I am.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like it was extremely supportive.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And like I said, I don't even know, like, right now when I tell people about making boundaries, I always say, like, it's not about telling others what to do. It's like you making a choice, you deciding what you are going to do. I'm pretty sure at that time I was like, you need to stop doing this. So I probably was putting up a wall. It might not have been the best boundary, but I think, like anything, we all on our journeys, like we do things that, you know, aren't perfect, and also that's like totally okay, and that's how we grow and learn.
Mhm.
I'd be curious. I might actually cringe at who that person was, to be honest, but I also have to love her, because she's the previous version of myself that is talking to you right now.
Mhm.
So how can I hate on her when um this is, you know what I get to share with people? And I might cringe at myself 5 years from now from what
Yes,
I have no
totally.
idea. And that's okay, because it's all the different versions of me. And if I judge myself, I am judging my life force. And again, then that goes back to the disservice.
Yeah. I remember in my former life, although it's still a part of my life, and I'm sure will weave into work that I do continuously. But I was a filmmaker and photographer, and I was at a conference, and this person was on stage, and the first video that they shared was the first video they ever made, and they played it all the way through. It was like a 5-minute piece, and it was very, amateur, as our first
Mm-hmm.
iterations of things are. And then he showed his most recent film, and of course it was gorgeous and all these years of wisdom. And the thing that he said afterwards was, I am as proud of that first video I showed you as I am of the last one. And I still, again, I got chills.
A tingle.
And I never forgot that. I
Yeah.
don't remember the rest of what he said, but that part I have never forgotten. And I've always thought back to that. And regardless of if there's cringe-worthy moments of newness, right, or lack of wisdom that we now have, because obviously we could not have had that then. Um, I think back to that and I'm like, yeah, like we can be proud of each iteration of who we are. What if we could look back with pride instead of cringeworthiness and just say, man, like you gave it everything you had there. You were all that you embodied in life. You were all that you knew in life then, and you also have now gotten me here. Your curiosity continued to lead to more wisdom that I have now to reflect and say, oh, I feel differently, or I expand on that.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. Actually, thank you so much for sharing that story. What it made me realize, going back to this example of when my friend said this to me, the feeling I had in my body, but
mm,
like the wake up, like, oh crap, like when she said that, it's the same feeling I get in my body today when I make a realization. So, regardless of what I did with it, something awoke in me to take action for myself, for advocating
yeah,
for who I am. And yeah, even though it was messy and like I wouldn't do that today, why should it be what I did today? It should have been what I did then, because that is what led to my growth, like you were saying. And yeah, I'm proud of her. I'm proud of you, Nisha, from 12 years ago.
mm,
I'm proud of
me
you
too.
because it really was like, yeah, it was just a growth spurt was that led to so much of that blooming.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge celebration. And that part's massive, like um we're talking about all of these pieces too, about what it even looks like to step into a space of self-trust, of wanting to have self-awareness, of realizing that you have agency, of maybe recognizing that you're in harm. Harm is being placed upon you, and do you have the ability to be able to sit with discernment even then, or are you in survival state because you need to be, like all, I feel like all of these layers are being brought to the table and everything we're talking about here, and it's powerful stuff, it's big stuff, that we're bringing forward. And I celebrate just like every awareness moment of just knowing what we need in any moment, right? Because we are actually very wise if we can allow ourselves to listen into, if we can trust that we actually can take good care of ourselves, we then do invite it, I think, to one another. That self-trust is incredibly important
Yeah.
in all of those ways.
Oh, I just really like when you said like listening to our wisdom, I got so relaxed. I
Mm.
got so relaxed in my body being like, oh yeah, that's where so much magic happens. Like listening to our own wisdom. I think so much where it's like you constantly seek some outside validation or we keep reaching for more.
Mm.
Um and you know, feeling not enough and feeling like you're too much, or it's like two sides of the same coin, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
And tuning into your inner wisdom, listening to what it has to say, is that enoughness. It's there. It is there
Mhm.
for you.
Yeah.
And at that moment, it was like, oh, wow, I am feeling really resentful of my mom. And my inner wisdom's like, you need to make a change.
Yeah.
And now it looks different. And that is its own evolution and growth. So, oh, I love that.
Yeah. I I I want to talk to you for like 40 million years. I also feel like I'm
Same.
just I will and could and let's make like multiple episodes from this, please.
Oh my God. I'm here.
I'm curious, as we close out this one, and please, my invitation there was please come back and let's have so many more dialogues.
I'm down.
Um, I am curious, this conversation, this question you've lived into, this way you've invited yourself forward in this situation you were just talking about with your mom. How do you feel like that has connected with the question you came in here with? Um, and does it?
Yeah, I absolutely do think it does, because I think that because I started advocating for myself,
Mm,
I started seeing how much power I had with the
yeah.
decisions I made. And not even like with my coaching, but because I didn't, coach for years after that, like
Hmm.
probably a good 8, 9 years, I wasn't coaching, but people saw what I was doing. Then they saw me make the decision to divorce. They saw me writing about it.
Yeah.
And so many people reached out to me, like thanking me for speaking up, relating to me, like people out of the woodworks, like first grade people, like on Facebook that I don't even like good friends with. Like, I was like, wow, this is having an impact. And, honestly, a lot of it was like about patriarchy and the ways that it holds us down and how that actually stops our life force. And so, yeah, like contributing to someone's wellness to shift those structures, to disrupt those structures
Yeah.
in a world that's so patriarchal is so, so, so important.
Hmm.
And, so many patriarchal structures are violent and are the same forces that are producing the violence we see globally.
Hmm.
So, yeah, totally connected.
All connected. Yeah.
All connected.
It's like you just threw the thread
Yep.
through every part of our conversation here. That's massive. That's massive. And it only furthers what I heard you bring in here, which is the importance of care for you, because it is all connected. There's no, we're living into the questions, right? There is no bow tie at the end of the sentence answer here. And also a large takeaway with a spotlight on it sounds to me like taking good care of you takes good care of others, that we are interconnected, that is deeply important. And it,
So deeply important.
right, it's like unconditional positive regard, right? Like taking good care of
Mhm.
you is not at the expense
Ooh, yes.
of the other.
Yes. Yeah, one quote that's really touched me this year is by Booker T. Washington, where it's like, I will permit no man to degrade my soul by making me hate him. And
Wow.
it's a hard one. It's a little rude, but I'm like, yeah,
Beautiful
it's true.
nonetheless.
When I am not regarding someone, it's actually like hurting me. It's
Yeah.
hurting my soul,
Yeah.
So how can I be with that pain instead of then bringing that to the relationship, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that discomfort again comes back around. That's
Oh,
the
yeah. Good
whew,
discomfort.
saucy.
So saucy.
Well, in this conversation, did you get up to what you wanted to get after?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's so funny because I'm like, what was the question I wrote, So I didn't know what I wanted to get after necessarily, but I think I got after what I was saying, like the presence and power and the power and presence. And I think I know that came through today. And I think that that's something I'm going to carry in with me to the next year. So thank you for the invitation and for this delightful conversation. Just so lovely, honestly, to see your face and see your kitties, even though I saw them a little bit, but it was so wonderful and delightful.
I'll bring it back up.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for your open heart, for bringing more of yourself to be seen to the table here, for sharing your journey of what it is to be in the liminal space of living the questions, for being open to sharing what that looks like, and in that inviting us all to be a little less alone in that discomfort, stepping into the beauty of what discomfort can be, and what it can invite, and the powerful connections with ourselves, with our bodies, with each other, with the world, that it can invite. Thank you for bringing that conversation to the microphone today. I appreciate you so deeply.
Oh, thank you, Courtney. I mean, thank you so much for the invitation. And when I saw the invitation, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. So thank you. I love you so much. And I cannot wait to hear more of these podcast episodes with more people. So thank you.
I love you.